Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 3 of Blood Monsters and Fears, hosted by me, Craig Brosnan.
And me, Anastasia Castleberry.
And we watched a good one.
We did.
We apologize for being a week late on this. We had some stuff come up, so we're going to have a makeup episode at some point in the future to make up for the week that we missed. And we're going to do our best not to miss any weeks going forward, but I'm sure y'all don't mind because there's not that many of you yet. Hopefully, eventually, there's more of you. But we appreciate your patience if you're looking forward to this. I know that everyone knows that we are doing Scream this week. Spoiler alert, this episode's about Scream. Because we say everything that we're doing next in the last episode, right? That's how that works, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So at the end of this episode, I'll tell you the next one is, which I'm even more excited for that, but I don't want to spoil that yet. Because I'll have a little girly squee of happiness when we say what movie is next. But yes, we did Scream, the 1996 classic.
Truly a classic.
By Wes Craven.
The Wes Craven, ladies and gents.
He's apparently a big deal, I guess.
This is the Nightmare on Elm Street dude, the Hills Have Eyes dude, and all these other movies that aren't really that good. But these other ones, they slap hard.
Oh yeah, before we get too deep into this, I need to also redact something from episode 2. I have an issue where I get very excited whenever I see something new or find something new that I really enjoy, and I'm just like, this is the best thing ever. I still love Hellraiser, but I don't want to give every movie that we review a 5, because if I don't make myself more critical, I think that that's going to end up happening. So I would like to redact my 5 and make it a 4. Just saying. So I feel like that's a bit more appropriate, because it's definitely not a perfect movie. So
No, by far.
I could already tell you right now, next week's movie will probably be a 5 for me. Just as a little hint towards the end of the episode. What are you laughing at?
Nothing.
Alrighty, so yes, Scream. What would you like to say to begin on this?
This movie slaps hard as hell. I love this movie. I've always loved this movie. I have a really cool vintage original movie poster for this.
Oh, yes, you do. Straight from the movie theaters, right?
Yeah.
Like it's an actual one.
Yes.
It's so cool.
I straight up love Drew Barrymore. If you ever see this, Drew, hey.
Also, holy shit. I know we're getting a little ahead of ourselves saying something right now, but I cannot believe she was only like 10 minutes of the movie. Mm-hmm. I had no fucking idea. That blew my mind.
Okay, so a fun fact. Dang, we're all over the place.
Yes.
When she auditioned to be in this movie, she actually auditioned for the lead role of Sidney Prescott. Mm. But when she read the script, she was just way more into this girl who dies. She's like, I want to be that bitch.
Interesting.
So, that's what had happened.
Huh. And I see you put that as the highest grossing slasher film ever.
It's true, even now, after all the other trash that they've made in the last 24... Wow, Scream and I are the same age. We have so much in common. In the last 24 years, yeah, there's been a lot of trash. We also... Well, not everyone, Craig. We've all seen, other than Craig, the My Bloody Valentine movie from, I think, like 2010. God, that was so bad.
Was it? Is that something we need to review eventually?
Oh,
though?
It's so
like,
bad.
Is it good bad or bad?
It's bad. But my man's... from Supernatural's on that. So,
which one?
The one who's going to be in The Boys, Jensen Ackles.
Jensen Ackles. He sounds like a man.
If you ever hear this, Jensen, hey.
You have high hopes for this show.
You never
Speaking
know.
out to all these celebrities.
You never know. I mean, Drew is like down to earth.
Is she?
I love you, Drew.
I didn't have much time to get to know her, so.
You've seen Charlie's Angels? I made him watch Charlie's Angels.
True, I fucking love that.
It's ridiculous.
That was so fun. But that's not a horror movie,
no,
so.
It's not, unfortunately.
So let's get on to the plot of Scream.
Okay, so Scream is... I mean, it's very much a movie of its time. Mm-hmm. It's very 90s.
Which I love.
Yeah, I enjoyed. That's a big part of
we
why
are
I like
90s kids.
And she answers it, and she's like, hello, who's this? You know, super flirty. Mm-hmm. And it's just some creepy sounding guy who's like, oh, sorry, it's the wrong number. And she's like, okay, bye. And then he calls back, and he's like, oh, wait. And it's just... it's a little, I don't want to say it's really awkward. I'm just like, they had caller ID then.
True, I think it was introduced around that time, right? So
And so she gets this phone call from someone she doesn't know. And then they just start talking about horror movies. And she's like, okay, this is a normal conversation, whatever, with somebody I don't really know. I mean, I guess it was maybe a little more commonplace then.
yeah, that's a really cool line, just the what's your favorite scary movie?
I know.
The way he says it. I also love, I think, doesn't he say his favorite is Friday the 13th, and then she says that it's a shitty movie or something like that?
No, she, I think she says that it's hers. She's like, he had the knives for hands, and he was, oh yeah, no, she says...
Like, she says that movie sucks or something, and it's funny, because you said that. I didn't know until you told me. Did you say Wes Craven? Yeah, he made that too.
Yeah,
so.
She says, the first one was great, but the other two sucked. And he made the first three.
That's so funny.
So, sorry, Wes. He called himself out.
So
he knew
funny.
what he did. He knew. So, she's on the phone with this guy, and he just starts being all crazy and telling her he's gonna kill her. And he specifically says more than once, I think, in the movie, I'm gonna gut you like a fish.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and she keeps hanging up, and then he keeps telling her not to hang up.
Yeah, and she's freaking out. She's crying, as girls do when they're on the phone. And he reveals to her that her boyfriend named Steve is being held hostage on her back porch near her pool, and says that she needs to answer these questions about horror movies or he's going to die. And she just keeps, going on and off, like, yes, whatever, I'll answer. She's crying, she's wailing, she's on the floor. And then she answers one wrong, and they disembowel him straight up, and which was super violent.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, yeah, there were a lot of violent movies that had already come to pass, but, like, for this movie to come out when it did and be the kind of movie that it is, for it to be so grossly violent, was like, wow, it was sick. It was nasty.
And, I forget what the question was, but I remember laughing because it just straight up spoils another movie.
Oh, Friday the 13th.
Yeah, doesn't it, like, spoil who the real killer is in the first when they say it? And I was just like, oh shit. I was like, well, I guess it won't be a surprise when we review that movie later. I'm gonna see that coming now.
Ooh.
Watch them a little out of order. You live and you learn.
It's true.
I'm sure I'll still enjoy it, but I just thought it was funny because I was like, oh shit, now I won't be surprised come Friday the 13th this November when we have to review that one.
We could always do the really bad remake from 2007.
Probably shouldn't, though.
Maybe it's 2007. I don't know. The other guy from Supernatural's in that.
Oh my god.
I love you, Jared Padalecki. Anyway, so she watches this guy who she hasn't seen yet murder her boyfriend, and then he just starts chasing her through the house, and she's like, I'm not answering any more questions, I'm scared. And he gets her, and he stabs her, and it's actually pretty brutal, and it's really sad. And as he's like chasing her and like stabbing her, her parents come home, and it's actually super depressing because her mom picks up the phone because she still had it in her hand,
and she's like, you hear her calling for help.
Yeah, in her dying breaths, and then they go outside and see her corpse hanging from the tree, and it's like, ooh, that's nasty.
And I was so fucking shocked because I was watching this movie, I was like ready for it to be like a murder mystery and for her to like go on the hunt to find this killer, and I was like, holy shit, that was just the intro where these two just write-off characters get brutally murdered, and that's it. That's the end of their story. I was like, oh my god, it was so cool. Very, very different opening for a movie.
Especially for its time.
I've never seen an opening like that in a movie, so.
And I would also
really
say,
cool.
like, she was probably, at that time,
The biggest one in the movie,
she
right?
was definitely the most famous person in that movie.
I know, well, she's on the cover of the movie. She's the first person, like, in front of all the actors and everything.
Yeah, she's on those posters that Screaming Faces.
Like,
her.
do you think that they kind of, like, almost like 90s clickbaited audiences? Like, they had her up front on purpose to get people in?
Absolutely.
Smart.
It was the smartest thing they ever did.
It's interesting. And the killer is kind of a bumbling idiot, too, which I enjoy. He's very grounded.
Yeah.
You can tell that, like, they're not, like, he's not, like, an expert murderer.
No,
which is funny.
He's probably not really done this before. He keeps tripping over his long cloak thing, and it's like, why would you even wear that?
I know, it's definitely different, and if you're listening to this, we're assuming you've seen the movie, we definitely find out that they're not experienced. It's not an experienced killer doing this.
No, not even a little.
But, holy shit, I loved it, so.
Yeah, so, the next day, you show up to the high school in this cute little perfect American town, and there are news people everywhere. And there's this super cute dark-haired girl, and she's walking. She's like, oh my god, it's just like last year. And you're like, what the fuck is she talking about? And she's named Sydney, and she's just, not having a good time. It's giving her hardcore anxiety. And she's, struggling with the fact that it's been a year since her mom died. And you find out that her mom was murdered. And her dad's going out of town, and she doesn't want to be by herself. And you see Rose McGowan in this movie, and she's just like all boobs, as per usual. And and the guy who played Shaggy in the Scooby-Doo movies.
Oh, yes.
Matthew Lillard, the man's. They're all like good friends, and I think considering that none of them were teenagers when they made this, I think that they play teenagers very well.
I think so, and I don't think they look like really old either.
No.
Like, they kind of pull it off.
Yeah.
Like, I think Matthew Lillard probably looks the oldest, but I think everyone had that kind of, like, pseudo, like, dumbass douchebag at their school that looked like him.
Absolutely. Looked like a grown-up.
So it kind of worked.
So, her dad's going out of town, and she's like, well, damn, I'm going to be alone on the anniversary of my mom's murder, because her mother was murdered. It's not just that she died. She was... It was bad. That's about as much as we get. It doesn't go into a ton of detail. And so she's waiting for her friend Tatum, who's Rose McGowan, and her friend's supposed to come and pick her up so she can spend the night at her house, because she's like, I don't want to be in this big empty house alone. And while she's waiting for her, she gets a phone call, and she thinks it's her weird friend who is like this super heavy movie guy. And it's not him. We know right away it's not him. She
very
doesn't know.
familiar voice that we heard on the phone earlier.
And so she is like, well, fuck this guy, and like goes outside and is trying to be like, you're not really here, you're full of shit, because she's kind of, in a lot of ways, this character's kind of fearless.
Yeah.
And I enjoy her, because they didn't show that a lot in slasher movies ever, is that there's somebody who's like, fuck all of you.
And he asked the question,
what's your favorite scary movie?
and she's just like, shut up.
She's like, I'm gonna fucking hang up. You know I don't watch that. And next thing you know, Ghostface, the killer, is in her house and is trying to, murder her. And she's like, well, damn, I can't get out the front door. I'm gonna run up the stairs. And so she runs up the stairs. And she kind of locks herself in her room, and he's still trying to stab her through the door. And that looks really funny to me. He has his
the way
arm
he's like
through the
waving
opening.
through. He's like, just kind of blindly slashing.
And it's the funniest, and the noise that they give it is the funniest thing I've ever heard.
It's so cartoonish.
It's so fucking funny. I can't take it seriously.
I love it.
And so you see her dial up internet. You see her... That's not a Commodore, but it sure as hell looks like a Commodore. And her phone line has been cut, but somehow her internet is working. Like, this isn't 1996 with dial-up internet.
It's
like,
fair criticism. I didn't even think about that.
Like, she's AOL. Like, she had to have a phone line. And so she types in, like, 911, please tell me. And then she sees that the guy's gone. And then her boyfriend, who, a really small note that really just irks the shit out of me. On the cover for the movie, he has a mustache. When he shows up into her house and is all around her, he doesn't have a mustache.
Yeah, the entire movie has no facial hair.
It's
but
so
on
disappointing.
the posters and the VHS cover and the DVD cover, everything, he has facial hair.
And it's like, why didn't you just do promo shots when he...
So
why didn't
funny.
you tell him to shave his mustache?
Like, it doesn't even look like the same person. It's really weird.
No, it doesn't. So her boyfriend shows up and swings himself through the window, and she's like, oh my god, yes, you're finally here, thank god I'm safe. And then a cell phone falls out of his pocket. And I mean, I kind of get it where she's coming from, because she immediately is like, were you making these fucked up phone calls?
Yeah.
Was this you? And I hate to say that I understand, maybe just from the perspective of like the time and her being so flustered. Like, I can't imagine the adrenaline that would be going through your head and the way you're going to be feeling when you're like feeling super alone. And so they arrest her boyfriend, whose name is Billy, who some people, if you've seen this and you've seen the trash on the CW Riverdale, that is what is his name? That's Jughead's dad. And it's so weird to see him young and then see him old. It's so weird. Anyway, so they arrest her boyfriend. She goes and spends the night at Tatum's house, and she gets another phone call that's just freaking her out, saying that no matter where she goes, she's gonna be found and he's gonna kill her. And then it's actually, again, a really funny sequence because Tatum's brother is this deputy on the police force, and again, a bumbling fucking idiot.
Mm-hmm.
He just comes out, he's in his underwear, he has his gun, like, what happened, what I miss? It's the funniest thing. And I love it how hard, if you've ever seen Scary Movie, like Craig had seen Scary Movie. Oh my god, yeah. Well, long before you ever saw this, you see how hard they parody it, and how it's actually pretty accurate.
Oh yeah, it's hilarious too, because I was telling you the whole time, I was like, I feel like I've seen this movie, because I've seen Scary Movie, but I haven't seen this. But so much of the stuff is like beat for beat, even like the environments and everything. They parodied it so well that I felt like I've seen this movie, even though I saw the movie making fun of it. So like I expected some stuff to like end in a gag joke just because that's what I was used to. It's so funny.
It's my favorite part. I love knowing that about you. And so the next day, they realize in between this time, like, well, Billy couldn't have made that phone call, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because he's in jail. And so the next day they let him out because in this time span, they've been tracing all these phone calls to Sydney's dad's phone, who has been nowhere to be seen since he left for whatever work thing he's supposed to be doing.
Suspicious.
And they can't find him at the hotel where he told her he was going to be staying. And so all of the suspicion is now on him. And due to there now being, there's these 2 murders and another attempted murder and, a lot of tension in this tiny town, that they suspend school until further notice. And then you see their principal has been in and out. He probably has like a max 10 minutes in the whole movie.
Yeah.
And it's Henry Winkler. And
you're goddamn right it is.
That's John Ralphio's dad. And he's actually a really nice principal. Like, I wish my principal had given a damn. Like, this guy cares.
Yeah.
And you just see him get wasted in his office. Just, like, bloody. Like, he murdered the Fonz, dude. And it was just, he did him dirty.
Mm-hmm.
And no one else seems to know this for a while. And so Tatum's boyfriend is this guy named Stu, who's best friends with Billy and in good with everybody else. And that's Shaggy. Maybe we should just call him Shaggy.
Okay.
Is deciding like, oh no, we're gonna throw a party because school's out. And it's not like people are dead, but okay. And so Sydney, Tatum, their movie friend, and a bunch of other people show up to this party. And so then you see this reporter that you'd seen earlier in the movie, who's Courtney Cox, who's just such a bitch. She's such a nasty bitch. When she berates her cameraman for always being late and how he needs to move his his fat tub of lard ass. Like, I cannot believe.
And he just takes it. He's simping. He's simping hard for her.
For poor Gail. And so
also, the news reporter's name is Gale Wind, and that's just really funny.
Yeah, Gale Weathers.
Gale Weathers, that's what it is.
Like, really? It's
Thank
so
God.
dumb.
Thank God for this movie.
So, she shows up to this party, and so does the cop, who's Tatum's brother, Dewey, who's actually, well, not anymore, but for a long time, that was actually her real husband. Ew.
Makes it funny because he's also simping for Gail.
Oh, everyone's
and she's
simping
like not
for
into
Gail.
it. She's just kind of like whatever.
Yeah.
Like she wants the D, but only to get to what she wants.
And I kind of respect her. A woman out to get what she deserves.
Respect the hustle.
So mind you, Gail is also she's just a ruthless bitch, and she wrote some horrible like tell-all book about Sydney's mom's murder. And it's just, she's one of those. She wants to be Barbara Walters so bad. So everybody shows up to this party. And you see Tatum go out into the garage to get a beer. And she gets murdered. And that's it's still hard to watch. And I'm still not okay with garage doors
it's
after
brutal.
all these years.
It's
really brutal.
When I saw like her starting to lift up, I was like, oh no.
In the garage door.
I was like, holy shit, this is not happening. And it happened, and it was rough. But this was also another good scene that was an example of the Ghostface was not. He doesn't know how to kill. He's a bumbling idiot the whole time he's trying to stab, tripping over himself.
I know, and that's why she, like, for a minute, she was, like, really believing, like, you're a dumbass. Like, take the mask off. I know you're somebody I know. And he's just messy. He can't keep it together. And, I mean, the fact that he has now almost let two people get away from him.
Yeah.
That he has to kill her in such a gross way that I'm almost like, how the fuck did nobody hear this happening? It was so gross.
It's funny because I almost wonder if I've seen this movie. Did they parody that in Scary Movie 2 or no?
Yeah, it's the fat girl.
And
she can't fit through the dog door.
Okay, yes. But I actually think that I've seen the original scene at some point when I was younger because I remember that scene happening once it started. Like, I had, like, a flashback of, like, being scared as a kid. So I think that I had, like... Because this is my cousin's favorite movie of all time, not just horror movie. One of them. So, I think that I actually might have seen that scene because, like, I had, like, it felt like war flashbacks going into my head as I saw her lifting up. I was like, oh no! Don't do it! And it was intense. That was one of the coolest scenes in the movie, though, just for the sake of a unique murder.
By far the most unique I've ever seen. And so she gets murdered, and low-key, nobody really notices.
Yeah, no one...
Like, how big is this house that nobody heard this happen?
It's sad, yeah.
It's, I mean...
It's not like she was like she was screaming for dear life.
I know, and nobody heard her. And I'm so sorry, Tatum. Sorry. And so then we see Billy roll up to talk to Sydney. And they finally, like, get down and dirty because all this time, like, he's kind of a douche.
He's like, you haven't slept with me since your mom died. What's up with that? And it's like, Jesus Christ,
for real. He says it basically that same thing to her like 3 times, and it's like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
He's like, I want you to sleep with me. I'm sorry your mom died, but, like, he's like, get over your emotional trauma and fuck me. It's basically like his argument, and it's like, Christ, dude, have some fucking empathy.
I'm sorry. I feel like that's pretty on brand for 17-year-old boys.
That's the sad part. Is like, I remember being in high school and that's how insensitive a lot of dudes are. It's really fucked up.
It really is. And so we see them, we don't really see them do it, but
yeah, we see it begin.
Yes.
Like, it becomes all hot and bothered, and then it goes away, and then it comes back after they're done being hot.
So we see Dewey the cop and Gail, Courtney Cox, investigating some abandoned car. And we find out pretty much right away that that's Sydney's dad's car. And it's, like, abandoned right down the road from Stu's house.
Interesting.
And I'm like, huh, little suspect. Little suspect. And then everybody in the house, all these other kids, hear that the principal is dead and has been, again, strung up from the goal on the football field. Like, what's with this thing about hog-tying people and leaving them out to dry, I guess? It's a little freaky.
Gotta leave their mark, right? So murderers usually have, like, a thing.
Oh, yeah, their MO, their modus operandi.
Yes, that.
And so the only people that are left are Sydney, Billy, the movie dude Randy, Stu, Shaggy, and Gail's cameraman, who she shits on, and he's simping for her. So we see the post-coital awkwardness that Sydney and Billy are experiencing, and then Ghostface shows up and starts stabbing Billy.
We're like, oh no, Billy's dead. Jesus,
I know, and she's
fucking
like,
Christ.
oh, what the...
Like, well, I guess Billy wasn't the killer.
Right.
Huh.
Mind you, Stu had just left. Just stepped away from the party to go get a beer. So he hasn't been seen since. Anyway. And so we think Billy's dead. He's gotten stabbed, there's blurred, and she's like, not again. And then runs outside and goes to the cameraman, Kenny, and is like, dude, help me, Kenny. And he's like, cool, I can do that. And then he dies as well, and he slits his throat. And
yeah, it's pretty brutal.
Yeah, it was.
He has one of the more violent ones too.
Oh, it was terrible. Oh wait, I'm having flashbacks. Sorry.
Yeah, they show it all leak out.
It was gross, and so she, like, flees again. She fits herself through this little hole cut out in the car. It was weird. And then you see Gail and Dewey, and are coming back to the house, and they think Neil, her dad, Sydney's dad, is the killer, and has come back to the party to keep going and kill all these people. And she tries to get away in the van, but when she's driving, she's like, what the fuck is all over the windshield? This wasn't here when we got here. She starts the windshield wipers and realizes that it's blood, and it's a lot of blood.
It's like, oh shit!
And she's like, oh my god, and like steps on the accelerator, and then
poor old Kenny,
he fucking flies off the roof of the car onto the hood, and he's all kinds of dead, and she's like, oh my fucking god.
It's intense.
It's great. And she's like, I'm so fucking sorry, but get off my car. Just like,
pretty much
this mean bitch, like, for real, after everything. And so she's trying to drive away. She has never driven a car before in her life.
Yeah, you can tell.
She runs right into a tree. I'm sorry, because I know it's supposed to be, like, serious, but it's... I don't drive. For anyone who knows me, I currently do not have a driver's license. And I can do better than Gail. Like, I'm embarrassed for her. And so she swerves from hitting Sydney and crashes into a tree. Whatever. You think, if she's dead, who cares? Whatever. She wasn't that important. And meanwhile, Dewey has been stabbed while trying to investigate the house. And so Sydney takes his gun. And then you see Stu and Randy, the movie dude, show up. And they're accusing each other of being the killer. And it's just like, dumbass little boys. Like, really? All this going on, you're really going to point the finger at each other? And so Sydney runs back into the house. And she finds Billy wounded, but somehow still alive. And she's like, oh, thank fucking God. And so she gives Billy the gun, really thinking that, you know, he's going to protect her and everything's going to be fine. And so they let Randy into the house, and right away he shoots him. And so Sydney's like, what the fuck just happened? Also, when he shoots Randy, the kickback on him when he gets shot, he, like, flies back into a table and just destroys all this stuff. And it's like, that's only a handgun. Like, that's not a shotgun. Like, what's with the drama?
You'd think it would be.
It was, again, it's so funny. It has its moments where, like, yeah, I definitely take it seriously, I guess, for what it is, but it's still really, it's funny. It's a funny movie. And so Billy reveals that he is the killer, and that he faked his injuries, and that he and Stu are actually, you know, together doing all this.
Oh my gosh. I wonder, am I stupid for not catching that or no? Because I was genuinely surprised.
I mean, no.
I didn't catch it.
I don't think you're stupid because, I mean, it's something that Sydney questions right before she thinks Billy is getting stabbed. And she's like, who was your one phone call where you were in there?
Yeah.
And she kind of, like, catches him in this minor lie. And first, after that, like, she doesn't have any time to really think about it because he gets, quote-unquote, stabbed. But he's like, oh, I called my dad. And she's like, no, I saw your dad down at the precinct. Who did you call? And he's like, well, I left him a message. And she's like, huh. Okay. So pretty early on, she suspects him. And I think the only time that they really paint it, up until that point, in my opinion, I wouldn't have suspected Stu to be involved. I would have thought it maybe at the most it would have maybe been Billy. But I would never have.
No, yeah, because I thought it was Billy probably until I thought he was dead.
Yep.
And then when they both came out, I was like, no fucking way. Like, I was so hyped, and I was like, well, that makes sense. I was like, the whole time we were watching the movie, I kept telling you, I was like, this killer is an idiot. I was like, he's like stumbling over himself like he's not an expert. And then
I wonder why.
It makes sense because
dumbass little boys.
Exactly, it's two idiot high schoolers doing this.
And so they start talking about how they want to kill Sydney and frame this murder spree on her dad, who is actually been being held hostage in Stu's house this whole time. That's why nobody knew where he was.
Yeah. They pull him out of the closet or something. He's all taped up.
It's
very sad, actually.
Yeah, because he's like, what the fuck? My wife's dead? You're trying to kill my kid? What the fuck?
He probably peed and pooed himself.
And that's when I shitted and farted.
He probably shitted and farted a lot. Dear God. He looked like he smelled terrible. This poor man.
First the Phantom and now him.
He looked like he smelled worse than the Phantom.
Oh God.
So,
oh, that's terrible.
Like you would be like trying not to throw up when you're near her father. Like you go to untape him, and he's like, bleh. Anyway.
Oh, you're too good. So, she sees her dad and she's like, "Oh no, daddy."
Mm-hmm.
And then they reveal to her that they also murdered her mom and that they framed this other guy to do it, that he did it. Oh my god. They framed this other guy saying that he did it. So they framed this poor man saying that he was the one who murdered her mom, because she was having an affair with this guy that they framed for it, and with Billy's dad. And so nobody knew that other than, I guess, like Billy's parents and I guess him, because Sydney had no damn clue. And so he blames her mom for his mother leaving, and so he's just never been to therapy in his life. He's never talked about his feelings, and he's just pointing the finger at the wrong places and very obviously doing the wrong things to cope.
Yeah, that I thought that was one of the worst motivations ever for a murderer.
But again, I feel like it's very on brand for a dumbass teenage boy.
Yeah, and that does make sense, I guess. I think a lot of this movie feels even more grounded. You remember that these are pretty much kids.
Absolutely.
Because they're all like, what, juniors in high school?
I mean, I remember being
a
17.
Stupid 17-year-old.
So stupid, so immature.
Hopefully not stupid enough to kill people.
But... no. You think I'm being here right now?
That's fair. You would have got caught.
That's fair. This bitch. Anyway. So then Gail, who I guess, I mean, am I really that surprised that she survived driving into a tree? No. But am I disappointed that she did? Absolutely. So she rolls up and is like, "You're a bitch. I made it. Ooh." And then Sydney is smart and takes this opportunity to get the gun that they had and kills Stu. She actually drops a TV on his head, and it was, again, brutal as hell.
It was intense.
It was one of those really big, everybody had one, everybody knew somebody had one.
Fat-ass CRTs.
Yup, oh my god.
They weigh like 60 pounds.
That would, yeah, no. And then we find out that Randy, the movie dude, who had the most ridiculous kickback of from a handgun ever, is still alive. And then Billy moves to attack Sydney again, but she shoots him. And then she has to shoot him again in the head because he tries to get back up. And it was just absolutely ridiculous.
If we learned anything from Zombieland, it's double tap.
That's right, ladies and gents, and whatever else. And so you see that all the cops and everybody show up, and Dewey is still alive as well. And they... kind of, I don't want to say they live happily ever after, but they definitely don't get away with it. They're both dead now. But it was pretty solid, not a bad ending, I guess.
Yeah, it pretty much just wraps up the next day that Gail's doing a news report outside talking about it.
Looking all fucked up.
Yeah, and then it pretty much just ends.
And it's
so kind of a sudden ending, but
definitely. Especially for this kind of movie, I think. But yeah, it's not, I don't think it's a super long movie.
No, I think it was like an hour, 20, hour 30.
Yeah.
Which was perfect, I thought.
Yeah.
I thought it was the perfect length. A movie like this doesn't need to be more than an hour and a half, I don't think. In general, I'd say hour and a half is the sweet spot for horror movies.
I agree. But yeah, I love this movie. I remember seeing it for the first time, where I could remember it when I was like 14 and thinking like, damn, this shit slaps. This is great. I love this movie. And every time I've seen it afterward, I mean, yeah, I can poke and prod at it and make my funnies, but I really do think it's a really good movie that anyone who likes horror movies, and anyone who really likes slasher movies, that's my kind of, that's my favorite subgenre of horror, I would have to say.
I like that, and I like thrillers too, but I will say, this is now my second favorite horror movie of all time. I loved it that much. I know I just went on in the beginning about how I don't want to praise stuff or get too hyped right away, but since this is a week, we film, or we watch the movies on Fridays, and then we sit on it for a day and record it the next day on Saturdays. But since we delayed this by about a week, I had some time to sit on this, and I still say that this is my second favorite horror movie now. I fucking loved it. It's very different. It's way more grounded than most horror movies. And I think a lot of the characters are very believable. A lot of the stuff that happens, I think, is also very realistic. Like, I feel like this is the kind of movie that inspires crazy people, which is scary.
Well,
but, like, I'm sure that someone's gone around in a ghost face mask and tried to kill people.
well,
I'm sure.
absolutely.
I'm sure if I Googled that, that's definitely something that's happened.
Well, this
And
is also,
that's
like,
part of what makes it, like, I didn't get scared, but, like, it is a scary movie.
definitely.
Like, it makes sense, and this is... I think I really do appreciate how grounded and realistic it is, but it's still very good at delivering the message that it wants to deliver and give the story that it wants to give.
I agree. I definitely agree. It's also my second favorite horror movie. My first being a horrible piece of trash that Craig hates. The remake of House on Haunted Hill from 1999.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of that.
But
But
Todd did.
but it's okay.
Oh.
It's okay. We can all have our different opinions. But I feel like if you don't like this movie, you're wrong. That's the only opinion you're not allowed to have, because Scream was so damn good. I loved it, and I'm very excited to inevitably watch the sequels in the future.
That, mind you, as we very quickly ease into those fun facts, Wes Craven actually directed all 4 installments that exist as of right now.
Mm-hmm.
He did pass away a few years ago, so anything that comes after this, they can call it Scream, but it's not.
Yeah, because we're getting a
Scream.
5th one next year, right?
Yeah, but it's not. It's not. He didn't make it. It's not him. It's not Scream to
That's
me.
fair.
But yeah, on to those fun facts, huh, baby?
Yes, hit us.
So, during development, this movie was actually supposed to be called Scary Movie. And that got really far into them having a bunch of promotional merchandise and posters and stuff made until they were just kind of sitting together. All the people, like the producers and the studio, were like, ew. I don't like how this looks even a little bit. This is not the right thing.
It's funny just because then we got the parody movie, Scary Movie.
I know. Who's made by the same studio.
So funny. In all honesty, though, I actually think I like the name Scary Movie better than Scream. I think that'd be an awesome title for this.
It just didn't work out that way.
I know, but I kind of wish that it did end up being the final title. I really enjoyed that.
Something else, too, is during, like, I would definitely call it the climax. It's really, really close to the end of the movie, but it's definitely where all of the... What is it? All of the loose ends are being tied together, and all of the... all this information is being hung out to dry, so all the truths are coming to light when Sydney finds out that Billy's this killer and that he murdered her mom. And so he is coming at her, and it's right in the foyer of this big, beautiful house. So, of course, they're fancy people, so they have big umbrellas. And so she grabs this umbrella to fend him off and stab him. And when they were making this movie, the prop didn't retract right when she stabbed him in one of the last takes that they took. And it actually stabbed him and went into his heart, and he actually almost died making this movie.
That's insane.
So when you see him, like, in that pain that you see, like, when she stabs him and it looks real, it's because it is. He almost died.
So that scene, they actually used that take?
As far as I know, yes.
God, that's crazy.
And I've known that for years.
That's
like,
terrifying.
I know.
He could have died making... Is that ironic? Right?
Yeah.
I guess that'd be irony if he would have died.
Oh, I know. Oh,
I mean, it's a good thing he didn't, but jeez.
I know.
God, that must have hurt.
Like a bitch.
Ugh.
No, thank you. I'm having pains thinking about it. Also, this movie had to be resubmitted to the MPAA, the people who rate movies, 7 times before they finally moved it to being an R-rated movie, from being NC-17, because of how violent and gory it was considered. And I mean, I get it, like, they completely gut Drew Barrymore in the first 10 minutes of the film, so...
I know, I wonder how much worse it would have been.
I know, I'm afraid to know. Also, so, the guy who does the ghost face voice on the phone is, in fact, not the people who play him. I don't remember his name, but he is actually, first of all, the guy who does Mojo Jojo's voice on Powerpuff Girls.
That's awesome.
Can you believe it? I couldn't believe it.
The
It was
ultimate
like,
crossover.
what? And then also, during the production of the first 3 movies, no one had ever met him or seen him before. So everything he did was completely offset to make it more realistic. Wes Craven wanted it to be that these people were really scared because there was they couldn't see this person, so he was really on the phone talking to them, and he has the creepiest voice
Oh
when
my
he
God,
does that.
so
It's
cool.
scary. I would
I
be
love
so
it.
afraid if somebody called me like that.
Mm.
So it wasn't until like Scream 4 came out that anybody had ever actually met him
That's
that made
awesome.
these movies. Also, this movie is definitely credited, especially in the 90s, for bringing back horror and slasher movies and showing what makes them good. That they can be really well made movies,
Mm-hmm.
that they don't all have to be Sleepaway Camp, which is still a movie that I really enjoy, but they don't have to be any of those really shitty movies, that they
Mm-hmm.
can be made well, the acting can be good, the soundtrack can be slamming. They have Nick Cave on this. Like, come on.
The music was really good too.
So it definitely showed and still shows so much of what horror can be. And I think the fact that people should take it seriously when it's good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it doesn't have to be all for shits and giggles.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is also really well known for breaking a lot of the norms of slasher movies.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and the character Randy, the movie guy in this, he talks a lot about like, oh, you can't have sex. You can't say, I'm gonna leave the room and I'll be right back. But it happens, and they
then
break
all
all these
those things happen.
because she has sex, and she's one of the only females in the movie that doesn't die.
Mm-hmm.
And she is bad as hell, which
Mm-hmm.
is something that they did not show in movies like this.
Yeah.
The closest you get is, I don't think it's a spoiler if anyone's not seen Halloween. Obviously, Jamie Lee Curtis doesn't die in the first movie because there's
Dude.
other movies.
Dude.
Are you kidding? Oh my god.
She's on the poster of every movie.
I
so-
know, so it's like, well,
So I think I'm safe on that one.
so I don't know. I remember being super young and being like, well, this movie freaks me out, but at least she's bad as hell. At least she can take care of herself.
Yeah, I love this movie.
I think it's great. I love this movie. I love everything about it. This is a 5 out of 5 for me. Has been for years. And that will never change.
I'm trying to decide if I want to give it like a 4.5 or a 5.
Oh my god.
What?
The drama.
I don't want to.
The inner
I
turmoil.
know. Well, even though I haven't said what we're doing next week, I already know that that's a 5, and I feel like that's something that I should. It's a 5 for me at least, and I know that's something I shouldn't just give away. But since it is my second favorite, I'll just say it's a 5. Unless something else comes up and it replaces this one, because nothing will replace my number 1 ever, probably.
No, nothing can.
Yes, so I'd say this is a 5 as well. This is a must-watch.
I think absolutely.
I think this is as good as slashers get.
Yeah, I've never seen one that's better. And I've seen a lot. I've seen way too many.
And I haven't seen many. I've seen enough-ish. So, but this is a good one. So, and we do have a nice review from our good old pal Elaine wrote in again. She wrote us an essay, so I hope you all packed a lunch.
First of all, Eileen, I feel every single second of this. Secondly, let's just jump right in.
Yeah, let's just get into it. Let's see what Elaine has to say about Scream.
So this is from Eileen. This was written on August 22nd because she's devoted. 10 out of 10. Scream. So happy to talk about this one. Wes Craven, may he rest in power. Feels like he was one of my friends growing up because of how often I'd be watching one of his movies, particularly this one. Scream is absolutely one of my favorite horror movies because of how well the satire and comedy worked in a horror film. I truly think that this is one of the best movies of any genre. I don't know if Anna has watched the other films, but I hope she convinces Craig to watch the rest of the series. I've seen all of them. He's going to see
Not
them
yet.
all. Don't worry.
Eventually, we're gonna do like sequel months where we just dedicate a whole month doing like the second movies and then the third movies and series and stuff. That way, we eventually get through things. Because if we don't, then we might not ever get to some of them.
Definitely. And I'm just realizing now, like, once we review Halloween and we get to the sequels and stuff, we're gonna do that for like 10 years. With all the sequels that exist from
I
that.
don't know. We could always do like. We wouldn't do it this year, but like in the future, we could do like all of October, like all of Halloween,
Which would
like
be a
stuff
bad
like
idea.
that. It could be fun.
Vote in.
Yes.
Give us a thumbs up or
Future
a thumbs
plans.
down.
Let us know your thoughts.
So, on with the review.
Mhm.
The opening scene is easily one of the most iconic horror openings. I definitely agree. I feel like no matter how many times I watch it, I always feel dread. And it's because not just this scene, but the whole movie feels so realistic. Imagine being alone in the house. Someone's watching you and calls you to harass you. They tie you up and kill your dreamy football boyfriend. And then eventually you get stabbed, just a few feet away from your parents' line of sight. The opening is about 12-ish minutes long, and it honestly always feels like a standalone masterpiece to me. Elaine, I absolutely agree.
No, yeah, like, if the first 10, 15 minutes was just a short film, I think I would have enjoyed it just as much.
It's sad, it's scary, it's kind of funny.
I love the whole movie, but the intro is unparalleled. It's unmatched compared to anything else.
It's all about that Drew, dog. She did it to us. The murder of Casey and Steve feels supernatural at first, because how did one person manage to be in two places at once? Mm-hmm. How did a person go from murdering someone outside to being inside of your house and ready to kill you? Well, of course, we know by the end that two people have teamed up to look like one killer. But let's pretend we're people in the movie. This shit seems inexplicable because no one suspects that there will be two killers. The audience didn't expect this, and we saw everything that happened. There are many horror cliches listed throughout the movie by characters, Randy, and of the attacks and murders that were like a punishment for blatantly ignoring the tropes. The irony in this movie was funny, at least as someone that was not actively in the situations. Totally fair. Little side note about Skeet Ulrich, Billy, and Neve Campbell, Sydney. They were both in The Craft together, girl! They were, wow. Elaine.
I don't know what that means, so I'm just going to be excited for
He'll
you.
know one day. She also says, Ulrich is a great guy to look at, but the role he had in The Craft and in Scream make me hate seeing him in anything else. He's also Jughead's dad in Riverdale. Girl, you knew. But The Craft is great. And she's right. Yes.
Is that another horror movie, or is that something else?
Yeah, no, I would think it definitely categorizes as a horror movie.
Okay.
I mean, it gets thrown under there. It's Zia Records. It is filed under horror in the DVDs and the Blu-rays, so I guess so. I always forget this movie is almost 2 hours long because it doesn't feel like it to me. I think every part of this movie was important, and I'm just saying that because some films that are longer than an hour and a half, sometimes even that's a stretch, really don't need to be.
Wait, it was that long?
I don't know.
Maybe that's, because I was just going on about how I thought it was an hour 20, hour and a half. I guess that's just a testament to how good it is.
It doesn't feel.
Exactly, so I don't know. Now I'm good. Now I want to look up how long it was after we're done with this, because I'm just like, what?
You're giving him an existential crisis for sure.
I really thought it was way shorter. It flew by, maybe just because I enjoyed it that much, so wow.
Maybe. Everything in Scream flows so well, and I enjoy every second. Wait, one more piece of important info, in case you didn't notice. Oh god. Stu, Matthew Lillard, that's Shaggy. Isn't that a mindfuck? And we do see him in Scream before Scooby-Doo, but I can't wrap around my head around the fact that Shaggy is out here killing people. Mm-hmm. I hate it here. But I don't know. I feel like this was prepping him for that meme last year that he's God.
Oh, yes.
That he killed God.
God, that was
his immeasurable power.
That was the best meme.
I love you, Matthew Lillard.
So funny.
You're everything I wish I was. And actually, another fun fact. Obviously anyone has seen Scooby-Doo. Mm-hmm. And there's him and the guy who plays Freddie Prinze Jr. Obviously they're like BFFs forever in that movie. They've actually been in a shit ton of movies together as well. They've been in so many movies together. And I'm like, just stop it. It's just, Fred and Shaggy. Just calm down.
Chilling. So
anyway, ghouls and demons in movies are scary. But there really isn't anything scarier to me than what people are capable of. Humans have to constantly interact with each other, forming different levels of relationships and interactions, and you will inevitably become close to some people. Sometimes you think you know someone, and they prove to you that you really don't, and then the horror begins. That's true. And then we look at poor Sydney, her boyfriend, and her friend were hiding this shit right in front of her, and then tried to frame her dad, and it seemed like her dad may have been the killer. I can't imagine what might have been going through a real person's head, going through, experiencing all those things. No, thank you. Billy did a great job of covering up his trail, but of course, it was devastating to find out that he was, in fact, not the one killer, but one of the killers. And, wow, that's true. Sorry. Casey and Steve were killed because Stu's feelings were a little hurt by being dumped by her in the past and being replaced. Billy's bitch ass killed his girlfriend's mom because he had mommy abandonment. I don't know how to speak English. Because he had mommy abandonment issues. Not to minimize the pain that people in these kinds of situations feel. I can imagine both are very painful, but to become murderers, go to therapy. That's the tea. I really wish I could have put into words my appreciation for this movie, but I don't want to end up taking more than a few minutes, so I'll end my thoughts of this movie with just this. Horror movies straying from the usual formula have a special place in my heart. Thank you, Wes, for creating so many wonderful movies, but especially this one. Yeah.
Excellent thoughts, Elaine. I pretty much agree with everything you said. I really enjoyed this.
It's such a fun, ridiculous movie that it doesn't take itself too seriously. And I think that's why it's so good and why it was so successful when it came out, and how, at least in slasher movies, it is still unparalleled. Nothing can even
this movie is one of a kind. It's not like anything else.
No.
It definitely has its own standard set, and it doesn't follow the rules, and that's always a good thing.
And I love that, Wes Craven didn't write the screenplay to this movie, but if anyone else had made this, it wouldn't feel this way. It wouldn't be scary like this. It wouldn't freak people out even now. It wouldn't have hit as hard as it did. I think even watching it in 2020 and seeing like the obsolete technology and the kind of retro clothes and a lot of what's going on, it still feels like this could be anyone, anywhere, anytime. And 10 out of 10 all Wes.
It was definitely a good time. Are all the sequels good or no?
I don't know if I would say that they're all good. They all have their place. The one that I like the least... Oh, I almost said Scream 3, but that's a lie. I love Scream 3. I think I like Scream 4 the least.
Do you like the first one the best?
Absolutely.
Okay.
In my
I didn't know if it gets better, that's all.
I don't want to say... I don't know. I would say in my personal ranking, mine is 1, 3, 2, and 4. I love Scream 3. I think it is so good for what it is. It takes place in Hollywood. And it's great. I love everything about it. And I feel like I wish that had been the direct sequel. I wish that was in the place of 2.
Really?
Yes, because I feel like
Did they bring it back some of the same people or no?
Yes.
And all of them?
Yeah, they don't recast anybody.
Oh, okay, cool.
And I mean, once you're dead in Scream, you stay dead. That much I will say. They don't do that whole supernatural shit.
Good. I usually don't like that.
I don't like that either.
Like something like Hellraiser, I think could make sense. But something like this is too grounded in reality to pull that kind of stuff out of thin air.
Yeah.
Wouldn't work.
He's not about that. He didn't do all that. I just feel like the first and the third movie have the same energy. They are both very fun. They are funny, and they are stupid. They're stupid movies, and I love them because it's like, fuck, where is this perfect picturesque town where people are running around murdering everyone?
So fun.
I mean, never heard of you.
Well, that's Scream.
It is.
It's a damn good one.
I love it.
So next week...
Craig is so excited to say these words. Just to have these words leave his lips. He is absolutely stoked.
Next week we're reviewing Godzilla! And some of you are probably thinking, but Godzilla's not a horror movie. First of all, shut up. You're wrong. The original 1954 Godzilla is a horror movie. There's lots of horror elements. There's lots of spooky shit. For the time especially, it was very scary. It is also a monster movie. And let me remind you, the name of our podcast is Blood, Monsters, and Fears. Not just Blood and Fears. So, I could sneak in a monster movie once in a while when I want to. And I just really want to do this one right away because this is like not only favorite horror movie, but probably second favorite movie of all time for me. Just in general. So this has to be done. And I feel like a lot of people that I know haven't seen this. and I think it's way more important than most people like to give it credit for. And you've never seen this one.
I have never
So
seen
we
this.
are turning the tables, and we're doing a movie that I'm super familiar with, and Anna hasn't seen. So that's
True.
going to be fun. I'm going to be doing the plot synopsis and fun facts and all that jazz. So we're going to do a little bit of a mix-up. But if anyone wants to watch along for that one, you got to make sure you're right. You watch the right one. There's different versions of this movie. The one we're going to be reviewing is the original Japanese version. It's called Gojira. If you try to find it online, you'll probably find it under Godzilla, but you have to make sure that it's the Japanese voiceover and that there isn't any cut-ins with American actors, because that's how you'll know right away that's the American cut, because they added a bunch of scenes with American people to try to, like, make the movie better for the States, quote-unquote. And the original movie has a different plot, and it's much more depressing and kind of scarier. And if you want to watch it, the best way to watch it actually is on HBO Max. They have it. It's just called Godzilla. And there's going to be two. There's going to be Godzilla, and there's going to be Godzilla King of the Monsters. Don't watch King of the Monsters, just watch the one that's called Godzilla. The good old black and white, big old lizard boy movie.
Is this a subtitled movie?
Yes. No dub.
Oh,
So you're going to have to pay attention.
But I love being able to walk out of the room and still hear what's going on the TV and understand.
Yeah, but this one's important.
Yeah, that's
You got to do it this one time.
That's fair. That's a big part of my personality, is walking away from shows and TV, like anything, and still kind of keeping an ear on it without having to watch it.
It drives me nuts. I could never do that. But yeah, if you guys want to watch along and write in, bloodmonstersandfears@gmail.com. Go ahead and send us your reviews, inquiries, thoughts about Godzilla. And thanks again, Elaine, for writing in. You're our regular viewer so far. Or at least regular write-in. I know we have some other people that have been listening. But we appreciate you all. We thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed. And we'll talk to you next Wednesday.
I love you all you filthy goblins. Good night.